Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this live legal education content, and today will be the day that I earn that subscription. For today's story, we are talking about Tom Girardi. Tom Girardi was a very famous lawyer, a super famous lawyer, working out of Los Angeles. Perhaps most known for his role in the real-life case that was the inspiration for Aaron Brockovich. He was in on that lawsuit. He was part of that thing that would become a movie. But that was not his only claim to fame, and not necessarily even his biggest claim to fame. Over the years, he has sued lots of different people. Chemical companies, food companies, power companies, fuel companies. He sued Shell at one point. He sued airlines relating to airplane crashes. You know, a pretty big deal, right? He was involved in huge lawsuits, huge numbers, and he was very good at his job. He got pretty good rates of return for his clients. So, you know, he was doing very well as an attorney. Unfortunately, as it turns out, Tom Girardi wasn't actually giving his clients the money that they won. See, that's the problem. He would win their lawsuit and the people would pay the money, but he wouldn't give the money to the clients. He just kind of kept it for himself. He kept it for the people who had gotten the cancer from the polluted water or died in the airplane crashes or whatever. He just, kept the money to the tunes of millions of dollars. In fact, it has been estimated that his law firm is on the hook for $500 million. $500 million of money that, the widows and the orphans won that was not, in fact, actually paid out. So just, minor problems there with the not giving the money. So, yeah. So we're covering just one small piece of this picture because it is an extensive picture for sure. So we can only cover about one small piece of it. So we're going to cover this small piece in which an insurance company wants to settle with 5 of his victims for $2 million, and then also wants to turn around and then sue the law firm under RICO. Okie doke. So they've said to the court, yeah, we'd like to settle this issue. We'd like to take on these people's claims as our own, and then we'd like to follow RICO. So they have filed a prospective lawsuit. So this lawsuit doesn't really exist yet. This lawsuit is part of what they intend to file in the future if the settlement is awarded, so that the victims would be getting their $2 million from the insurance company. The insurance company would then try to get it around from the bankrupt law firm with the $500 million in liabilities. But that's their plan. Okay, so we're going to, and also for what it's worth, none of these people yet have any criminal liability. There's not been any criminal charges. And at least for Girardi, it seems unlikely any will come because he is suffering from Alzheimer's and he's under a conservatorship and he is probably not mentally able to be charged. Also, probably going to die relatively soon, all things considered, given the way his health has been progressing. So at the moment, it's just civil, but let's talk about this. All right, so this is from Law 360, who has covered this. So Edelson, the insurance company, on Tuesday, has proposed paying millions of dollars to the widows and orphans of a plane crash whose settlements were stolen by disgraced co-counsel Girardi. Yeah, I mean, he just took the money from the plane crash victims. They sued the airline. And they won, and the airline paid out, and then Girardi just said, "Nuh-uh, money's mine, yo." That's not how that's supposed to work. So, yeah, Edelson over here wants to file a RICO against members of the Girardi family enterprise. Okay. The plan, which requires a federal judge blessing, because again, remember, this is all part of a settlement. So it has to be approved by the court, and they filed the RICO as an exhibit. So it doesn't really exist yet, but it kind of exists because it's what they would file if the settlement gets approved. Anyways, it would have Edelson, the insurer, pay more than $2 million to 5 of the former clients, according to court documents. In exchange, the clients would assign Edelson their rights to bring lawsuits. So, right, because the lawsuits obviously is from the clients. They're the ones that are out. If the insurance company settles with them, then they no longer have a claim. But of course, the insurance company might have a claim because of, the fraud. So they're like, okay, well, we'll give you the $2 million in exchange for which we want your legal right to sue. Ookie doke. So that all has to be approved. The lawsuits against several people related to the Girardi enterprise, including 2 of its former lawyers, its former chief financial officer, an alleged case runner, a litigation funder, and reality television star Erica Jane Girardi, who is married to the firm founder, who might be part of the enterprise. The insurance company stated that the law firm, a once legendary law firm, and, yes, was little more than a criminal enterprise disguised as a law firm, according to the proposed lawsuit. Indeed, the firm operated what we now know to be the largest criminal racketeering enterprise in the history of plaintiff's law. So not so much with a law firm as actually just a gigantic criminal enterprise, according to the insurance company, which, given what we know, is probably closer to the truth than not. This proposal that is just a piece. Again, I just want to emphasize, this is but one small piece of the Girardi nightmare. This is 5 people who have been built out of money. And these 5 people are important, but they're in no sense the scope of this thing. Girardi has taken millions and millions of dollars from many different people, but just one small piece of the puzzle. So this part of the puzzle comes more than a year after the U.S. district judge found the law firm had stolen $2 million in Boeing settlement funds from 5 Indonesian families whose relatives died in an October 2019 crash of Lion Air Flight 610. So Boeing was sued. Boeing agreed to a settlement, or they were judged in court, not sure which. And Boeing paid. And then Girardi's over here with, how about I just take your money? Edelson, which has not received its attorney's fees as co-counsel in the case, brought the matter to the judge's attention after finding that the law firm also failed to fully distribute settlement funds months after Boeing sent them. Since then, Tom Girardi and his law firm have been in bankruptcy proceedings with potentially more than $500 million in liabilities. $500 million of liabilities. $500 million from the widows and the orphans. Girardi, famous for his role in litigation that inspired the film Erin Brockovich, has had his law license pulled by the state of California, and perhaps also notably has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease and placed into a conservatorship against one of his brothers. So it is very unlikely indeed that Tom Girardi will be the recipient of any sort of criminal process, because he may not be mentally competent anymore. Also, kind of a little bit, what's the point? Because he's going to die pretty soon. So, I guess if you get away with it long enough. Meanwhile, the insurance company has been fighting with a former lawyer, David Lira, who is Girardi's son-in-law, and Kevin Griffith in contempt proceedings over alleged roles in the law firm's theft of the client funds. The insurance company claims the two attorneys lied to cover up the firm's fraud and should be required to repay the families. They say they have no knowledge or authority over the law firm's finances, which maybe, but if they're lying to cover it up, that could be a problem. That matter remains unsettled, though during contempt hearings last year, the judge said that the insurance company may share in the liability for waiting too long to report the wrongdoing to the court. On Tuesday, the insurance company's proposed complaint, so this is part of, if the settlement is approved, this is how they're trying to seek to get damages out of the bankrupt law firm. With what money, I don't know, but yeah. The proposed complaint contains new details about how the firm allegedly siphoned off money from the settlements to pay its own bills and outlines numerous allegations of criminal activity, including wire fraud, money laundering, mail fraud, and scams. Yeah. Under the proposal, the insurer would pay $500,000 to each of 4 clients who did not receive their full settlements, and an undisclosed amount to a 5th who said his entire settlement had been stolen. So just all kinds of fun stuff going on in this one lawsuit relating to Lion Air Flight 610. Just one small piece of the overall picture. So, to determine whether or not this looks any good, we are going to skim our way through this proposed lawsuit. So this would be presumably filed if the district court agrees to the settlement. That would make the victims whole. And I use that in quote marks because, well, that's as much as you're going to get. So that would extinguish the people who have their claims against Girardi. But then, of course, the law firm would have claims. So here's a proposed lawsuit that may or may not be filed in the future as part of ongoing this. And this will give us a little bit more light as to what was going on as part of this. And you always know you're in for a good time when the lawsuit has a table of contents. From the outside, the law firm appeared to be doing all the things an ultra-successful, top-tier plaintiff's law firm should do: represent injured clients in difficult cases, secure ground-breaking settlements, and win headline-grabbing trial victories. The firm's founder and namesake, Tom Girardi, was a celebrity both inside and outside the courtroom, and was viewed by many as perhaps the most prominent plaintiff's lawyer in the country. That's a fair assessment. I mean, at the time, he was definitely in the running for that kind of a list, sure. But inside the firm's doors, the story was completely different, as the layers have been pulled back more and more each day, with pending bankruptcies of the law firm and Tom personally, and torrent of claims and investigations that came in wake of the firm's collapse. The real story is one that seems like a tale out of a John Grisham novel. The law firm was little more than a criminal enterprise disguised as a law firm. Indeed, the law firm operated what we now know to be the largest criminal racketeering enterprise in the history of plaintiff law. All told, it stole more than $100 million, and it might be quite a bit more than that, as we were discussing, from firms' clients, co-counsels, vendors, and many others unfortunate enough to do business with the firm. Before the downfall, the cases the law firm took on were high profile, in which the firm represented grievously injured people or surviving families of those who died in tragic accidents. The firm's work drew the eye of Hollywood, portraying one of the firm's cases and staff in the hit film Aaron Brockovich. The office was littered with publications praising Tom and legendary cases and legal adversaries he felled over a career spanning decades. Accurate. But every bit of this outward-facing success was built on top of a house of cards. In reality, the firm was siphoning off millions to fund Tom and Erica's all-consuming need to spend, funding a lifestyle so lavish that Erica was a cast member of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I mean, I would think that the money he should have been awarded would be more than enough to live a very lavish lifestyle indeed. But, okay. And the couple certainly played up the part of flaunting their wealth and the fact that Tom was a powerful attorney who wooed celebrities, judges, and politicians alike. But that money was not earned by the firm or Tom, but stolen from co-counsel, from vendors with long overdue bills, and most unforgivably for an attorney, from the firm's own injured clients. Yeah, they might have been stealing the client money a little bit. Yes, that's not really great there. The basic scheme operated like this. When a new opportunity for cases came in, the firm would tap into its network of non-lawyers, sometimes called case runners, to find them injured clients. These individuals were paid with cash for getting the clients to hire the firm, which is illegal, and also take a cut of any eventual recovery for the client, which is also illegal. It sure is. It sure is. It's in the ethics rules. You're not allowed to do that. There's just one example. Hatcher, a non-lawyer consultant who was responsible for referring the families of air crash victims, got hundreds of thousands of dollars to ensure his referrals to Girardi were exclusive, along with similarly illegal percentage of whatever the client got. Just by way of ethics, in case you wanted to know, since we could always learn something from the misfortune of other, just by way of ethics, it is illegal for an attorney to split money other than by informing the client at a bare minimum. So if it's within your firm, then sure. But if another firm is going to get part of the money, if another firm is going to, get a contribution or something, that all has to be, disclosed to the client, bare minimum, and sometimes requires client approval. So, and also, more importantly, a law firm can only be composed of lawyers. So you can't have non-lawyers taking a percentage of the law firm's revenue because they're not part of the law firm, because they can't be part of the law firm, because only lawyers can be part of the law firm. Yeah. With the firm, David Lira as Tom's son-in-law and Keith Griffin, two of Tom's most senior lawyers, made sure the client and lawyer-facing aspects of the scheme were managed and appeared to be on the up and up. They struck the deals the firm needed to get case to settlement, like securing co-counsel in the locations in which a case would be filed, while in some cases committing to pay out more than 100% of the available fees. In other words, Lira and Griffin would make deals with co-counsel, with full knowledge they were never going to be paid. Also unethical. You can't misrepresent. Once a client settlement money was funneled into the black hole that was the law firm scheme, Lisa and Griffin were tasked with fending off inquiries from clients and other lawyers about why that money never came back out. Administering from the inside was Kamon, the law firm's accountant, who was responsible for disappearing client money out of the firm's trust account, very illegal, and funding the firm's operating accounts, very illegal. From there, the firm made payroll, including paying Lira and Griffin's millions in salary, as well as paying off things like American Express bills, on which Erica and Tom debited more than $14 million in purchasing exorbitant luxury items, food, and services. That seems quite excessive for genuine law firm expenses. Erica acted as the front woman of the operation, selling to the world, including unsuspecting clients, that the law firm was successful. Well, they were. I mean, that part was true. The law firm was very successful. Would have been nice if they paid their clients, but you know. And she was exceptionally good in the role. With tens of millions of dollars backing her, Erica shamelessly displayed a nationwide showroom of the money they stole on Real Housewives, famously spending $40,000 a month on her look. I mean, if your woman needs $40,000 a month to maintain her look, I mean, I don't know. That's $10,000 every single week. That's, let me do the math real quick in my head. That is $1,300 a day. Yeah. $1,300 a day to maintain your look. That's a lot of product, it seems to me. Released a song called Expensive, featuring the refrain, "It's expensive to be me." Well, apparently. And when push came to shove and the fraud was close to being exposed, Erica clamped down on misleading the public into believing that an otherwise damning lawsuit was false, and the plaintiffs behind it were forced to apologize to Tom and the firm. If your woman needs $1,300 a day to maintain her look, which is what? Roughly, I can do this. That's roughly $50 every hour. So that's roughly what? About $1 every single minute and a half or so. So every single minute and a half, you need $1 to feed your look. If your woman needs $1 every single minute and a half, 24/7, 365, you know, maybe that's the problem. Yeah. When the firm couldn't pay its operations with the client money, it went to lenders, taking out tens of millions of dollars in financing. Eventually, though, the law firm became untouchable as a routinely delinquent debtor. One creditor of the law firm became a beneficiary of the scheme. DiNardo and his company, in order to make back some of the money the law firm had borrowed, DiNardo continued to fund the firm into 2020, provided it get a first cut of settlement money coming in from the law firm, making sure the money was paid directly to the company before it ever hit the account. That's also illegal. Stephanie says, when you're that ugly on the inside, you not only need a crap ton of money to make it outside okay, but you need to eat it too in an attempt to pretty up the inside. I guess money really can't buy beauty. I guess money really can't buy beauty is the takeaway lesson. Because for $1 every single minute and a half, every day, she was unable to make herself beautiful. For $40,000 a month, was unable to make herself beautiful. She was just as ugly as she was before, if not uglier. Sad. When the curtain was finally pulled back, it became clear the law firm operated in a manner similar to a Ponzi scheme, but much worse. The clients whose money the firm stole didn't just invest their cases with the firm. They trusted them to help piece their lives together. These clients didn't think they were purchasing an asset, risky or otherwise. They thought they were buying competent legal representation to redress horrific injury or death of a loved one. And when the law firm clients agreed to settle their cases, the money that belonged to them was exclusively theirs, which should have only been held briefly in trust before immediately being dispersed. That is, the way that's supposed to be. That's the way that's supposed to be happening, right? The money comes in for the settlement. The money comes in for the settlement, and then the law firm disperses the money. Right? That's how you're supposed to do that. So they take out their fees, they take out their costs. Usually that's pretty typical per the agreement, right? So there's the fees and costs. So let's say that combined is 50% of the cost, 50%. Let's say it's 40% for their fees and 10% for costs. And by the time you're done in a really complex case, that's possible. So let's say it's 50%. So the law firm takes its 50% and then writes a check for the other 50%, right? And if the law firm owes any money to anybody, they pay out of the 50% because they take it out of the trust and they put it into their operational account. And now it's their money and they can, spend it to repay debts. That's how that's supposed to work. It's not super complicated. When the law firm clients agreed to sell their cases, the money belonged to them. Not a single cent of client money should ever been funneled to the law firm's operational account, to the firm's payroll, to a lender, or to an American Express bill. Correct. But time and again, for over a decade, the law firm only added to pain and suffering of these victims, doing the unthinkable for a law firm, stealing the client's money. And until recently, the firm, Tom and his partners, got away with it. In order to pull off such a brazen and lengthy scam, the law firm attorneys lied to, manipulated, or bribed anyone who might reveal the scheme. Tom would leverage his larger-than-life persona, carefully curated both on-screen through Erica in Housewives and off-screen, and would wheedle and promise anyone he owed money to would ultimately be made whole through his massive wealth and influence. When that didn't work, Tom would try to intimidate them. Tom cultivated the impression that not only was he a successful and powerful attorney, but he actually controlled the relevant authorities, including the agency disciplining attorneys, the state bar. Now, this is actually kind of true, as it turns out. When Tom says, I control the relevant authorities, including the state bar, as it turns out, this was kind of true. This was a teensy little bit true. Because as it happened, although Tom Girardi was sued over 100 times and multiple complaints were filed with the bar, his bar license remained pristine. Even though Girardi did not have malpractice insurance. So even though he didn't have malpractice insurance, which is, kind of sus, a little sus, not having the malpractice insurance, and even though he had these complaints, they never went anywhere because of improper relationships with the bar. So he wasn't exactly lying. Tom displayed his wealth and celebrity status to entertain state bar officials at lavish parties and reportedly went so far to bribe a longtime investigator at the state bar. We're on whole new levels, man. When you're bribing the investigator that works for the bar, man. Woof. On those few occasions where someone actually brought suit against Tom or the firm, the law firm would frequently win on procedural grounds like statutes of limitations, or if things couldn't be solved that easily, entered into confidential settlements that prevented the scheme from being detected. To be sure, despite years of complaints of alleged fraud and mismanagement, Tom maintained a spotless record before the bar. The fraud thus continued with only occasional glimpses of the rot inside. Any one of the breaches of ethical duty and outright crimes that members of the enterprise committed in these years would and should have been enough to end the careers of the people involved, and in many cases for them to face criminal prosecution. The fact they were able to get away with this for so long is just truly amazing, because if you're looking for fast tickets to disciplinary land at the bar, fucking with the client's money is a pretty damn way to do it. Way to do it. All right. That's like number one. That's number one. So messing with the client's money, that's usually a pretty good ticket to bar discipline land. $5 from death rancor. The median individual income in 2021 was $44,225. She spent almost more per month than half the working individuals in the U.S. make per year to feel pretty. That is depressing. I failed to consider that how much that money that is, but yes, you are correct. It is about the same as the average income in the United States. Yeah. Stephanie says, unless you bribe the bar, 1L ethics class shit. You know, I have to tell you, in my ethics class, I did not learn the bribe the bar strategy. Missed that one, I guess. Indeed, the story inside the firm during those years seems to have sprung from the head of someone who intended to violate every cardinal rule of lawyers, including but not limited to stealing and then commingling client money so it wasn't readily traceable from the trust accounts by siphoning it into the other accounts, laundering the stolen funds through the firm payroll and American Express cards on which Erica, Tom, and or Lyra each charged personal expenses for tens of millions of dollars, which, you know, you shouldn't do. Don't commingle client money and firm money. Don't commingle personal expenses and business expenses. This thoughtful lesson brought to you by CPA Basics 101. Covering up the Ponzi scheme by commingling money from Tom and lenders into a client trust account to pay off long delinquent payments to clients. Paying non-attorneys like case runners illegal cash bonuses for referring clients in addition to continuing to pay them illegal shares of the ultimate recovery. Oversubscribing the total amount of fees between lenders, non-attorneys, and co-counsel, and hiding that fact from counsels. Falsifying case expenses to justify stealing more money from clients. Defrauding clients by claiming to self-insure for the firm's malpractice policy, when no legitimate insurer would touch the firm in light of dozens of malpractice suits filed against them. But there was no actual money to back up the claims against the firm. Yeah. Bribing former judges responsible for allocating settlement of money between plaintiffs in order to produce a result the firm wanted. Using the claimed settlement money to fund their lifestyle and businesses, while loaning the clients small amounts of their own money in order to keep them at bay. Lying to, threatening, and or bribing clients and attorneys to keep them quiet from the scheme from collapsing. This guy has a very different set of ethical things than I do. I mean, I've been in debates with other attorneys and even my own chat once about ethics lines and where ethics lines do or do not exist. For example, when we were discussing the issue with Without a Crystal Ball versus Toddy, there was that whole issue about the dual representation of Brown, I believe it was, and whether or not he was. So there were two kind of questions: whether or not he was representing both Without a Crystal Ball and Lorianne, and whether or not that was a problem. And I came to the conclusion that it probably was representing them both, but it probably wasn't a problem, which was an opinion I got some pushback from on the chat for some reasonable reasons, incidentally. It's not like the chat was completely without basis, as they sometimes are. All right. This was just like, I think it's within the bounds. And the chat's like, nah, it's not in the bounds. And I'm like, your answer is probably more conservative. My answer is a little less conservative. But, it wasn't, this was the kind of thing that I argue over. This question, which, maybe it's on a line somewhere, versus I never thought about the, just stealing millions of dollars from the client plan. Never thought about that one. My biggest ethical dilemmas are about whether or not Brown did a bad in representing both Laurie in and without a crystal ball. His ethical dilemmas are, how about I just steal millions of dollars from the client? But the scheme eventually came crashing down in December 2020 after uncovering the law firms appears to have stolen the settlement monies from families who lost loved ones on the tragic crash of Lion Air Flight 610, which is, the least of the problems here. The plaintiff filed a motion seeking contempt. They later found out the lengths to which Tom, Lyra, and Griffin lied to keep up the fraud from being found. So, yeah. Within days of the insurance firm filing the contempt petition, the firm collapsed. Creditors put Tom and the law firm into involuntary bankruptcy. The federal court overseeing the action held a 3-day evidentiary hearing as to whether or not they personally should be held in contempt, which remains ongoing. Finally, the state bar issued disciplinary charges against Tom in March, and Tom was recommended for disbarment in January 2020. I don't believe he's technically been disbarred as of right now. I believe, technically speaking, his law has only been suspended. But I could be wrong about that. Yeah. And my warm thoughts towards, of course, Stephanie in her recovery from her surgery. We're all pulling for you. I'm pulling for you. And I'm very hopeful that this surgery will give you some relief to other issues that we're facing. So get some rest is my only recommendation, and take care of yourself as always. All right. But even after the insurance company brought the scheme to light, Tom, Erica, Lyra, and Griffin continued to run the same playbook they always had: bribe, lie, and/or kick up as much dust as possible in order to hide the fraud. After the insurance company's December filings, Tom tried to convince the insurance company that things weren't as bad as they appeared and was all just one big misunderstanding. Yeah. And even now, when so much unethical and unlawful contempt has been brought to light, the members of the scheme continue to try to protect themselves and what remains of their enterprise. Lyra and Griffin flatly lied at the evidentiary hearing on whether they should be held in contempt, as documents now show. And as just one example, Lyra falsely claimed that he lacked knowledge about why a client had received a loan, which documents have since revealed Lyra knew fully was her own money. And Griffin asserted that he had not been engaged in lulling Multi-Rizzi, one of Lion Air's clients, into waiting for settlement money when emails showed that he did. To this day, Erica uses her significant public platform to lie about her own involvement and try to assist Tom and the others in getting away with it. Incredibly, Lyra and Griffin continue to practice law. I'm not sure how long that will be true, but while the state bar, under pressure from the LA Times and Law 360, has finally appointed an independent investigator, it continues to limit its investigation of the others involved in the law firm fraud to the Lion Air case and threaten retaliation against lawyers that have questioned its impartiality, which is always a good sign. Trish is right. To the 236 of you who are currently in the chat, please remember to hit the like button as always, and I hope you are enjoying this stream as we uncover a piece of this story, because this has been going on for a while, by the way. Emily D. Baker has done some coverage of this, of Girardi. I know. And I've not covered it as much. But it's been a thing that's been ongoing for a while. And this might be, in some ways, the most complete telling of the story. Well, that's not even fair. The complete telling of at least part of the story. Because we've had a pretty general good idea about the story, right? But it's been a little bit amorphous. So this is highlighting like one piece of the story, which is representative of the rest of the story. So you got that going for it. Yeah, and Stephanie points out that that Emily D. Baker has a playlist on it. So if you're interested in this story, you could check out Emily D. Baker's work on it, because she's had more to say on it. And, we'll cover the depths of whatever this hellhole is, at least. The following pages contain a detailed and exacting account of what plaintiff has learned in the year and a half since it first blew the whistle on the firm, including how its attorneys cut illegal fee deals with non-lawyers, hid those facts from their own clients and co-counsel, and drew down, check by check, the settlement money to their own ends. These actions are federal crimes, all of which were carried out in the furtherance of the illegal enterprise. Could well be. Accordingly, we bring this under RICO. Plaintiff seeks treble damages, attorney's fees, and punitive damages for an amount in excess of $50 million. So I'm not sure whether or not that makes the settlement fair or not. I mean, I guess that's up to the parties in the court, right? Because they want to settle to pay the actual victims of this thing $2 million, which, to be honest, might be all the money that exists, because this firm is in such deep water on its bankruptcy and trying to apportion it out. So yeah, maybe there's $50 million of damages that are possible, but it might just be one of those things where it's judgment proof. So, yeah. All right. So we'll skip all that. All right. So factual background. All right. So we're going to read this and try to understand whether or not there's a RICO. Now, I will say what I've said before. Civil RICO, which is what this is, civil RICO courts hate it. They hate it very, very much. One of the things you have to do in a civil RICO that you don't normally have to do in federal court is really spell everything out. You have to spell out like the who, what, when, where, why, which kind of means that you need to know everything before you even get to discovery. And that might seem unfair, but that's kind of just the law as it pertains to civil RICO. The courts hate it. But you don't necessarily have to know everything, obviously, but you have to lay out all the elements you do know, and they have to be enough to convince you of a RICO. So it's like, okay, well, let's see what we've got. Do you have enough to get to where you want to be on RICO? Tom Girardi founded the law firm in 1965. The plaintiffs are typically paid contingency. They present themselves as a firm. They portray themselves to the public as an extremely wealthy couple. In her 2018 memoir, Erica has a memoir. That's sad. Erica readily brags she has the advantage of a strong checkbook. The problem was the firm wasn't actually making money, so they turned to different sorts of funds. Well, that would be the client's money. When a plaintiff case settles, is both typical and legal for the funds to be set into an account where it holds the client's money in trust, known as a trust account. From there, the attorney can deduct the agreed upon fee, but the remainder is the client's money and has to be remitted immediately. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to work, man. It really shouldn't be money sitting around in the trust account. Now, there can be, if you're paid a what's it called? If you're paid a retainer. That was the word I was looking for. So it can be sitting around if you're paid a retainer. What's called so depending on the nature of the retainer, where you're like paid some money up front and then you deduct from it as you go. So you can have money sitting around, but that's really the only reason that you'd ever have money sitting around is for a retainer. It is a cardinal rule of any legitimate plans firm that client money has to be held in trust. But Tom made the decision years ago that the rule did not apply to him. Instead, Tom made the shocking decision to treat the money as a slush fund. Yeah, he was disbarred August 2021. Okay, no. Noted, fair enough. It shared characteristics of a Ponzi scheme, but it always needed more money, like Ponzi schemes do. They managed the law firm side of the Girardi family enterprise. When it seemed like they were going too close to blowing the whistle, Lyra and Griffin turned communications over to Tom so Tom could determine whether to pay or threaten. At some point, the firm began to claim its retention agreement with clients that it was self-insured for malpractice. There was no money to pay the fraud. The firm stopped holding third-party insurance because no one would give them a policy based on the sheer number of suits. 45 suits against Tom for malpractice alone were filed over the years. Yeah, that's a lot. Kemen was the bookkeeper. They need new clients. Offered these illegal agreements, including these cash bonuses and shares of the proceeds, which is very illegal. Attorney ethics rules prohibit sharing fees with non-lawyers. Yep. But Girardi family enterprise has long since decided the rules do not apply to them, and the firm entered into an illegal contingency fee arrangement with Hatcher that entitled him to 25% of the attorney's fees on all the cases he generated. Given that new clients were the lifeblood of the scheme, the Girardi family enterprise also gave Hatcher numerous $50,000 payments. In Hatcher's own words, the contingency fee arrangement proved to be extremely beneficial to Tom and Girardi family enterprise. My job was exclusively new cases to GK, and when possible, refer the case without a lawyer involved. Example of this, Gallon and Eli Cajon. Only person is me. GK saved 25% on each case by not having a lawyer involved. There are others. Despite public claims that she and Tom were spending their own money, financial records show that more than $25 million of her own expenses were paid by Girardi Cleese, the law firm, through the enterprise. $25 million. Again, these people should be fairly wealthy just based on the standard contingency fees. These guys are doing some huge volume cases for millions of dollars. On standard contingency, 40%, right? I mean, 40%, so it's not an insignificant amount of money. These people should be living pretty large, but not large enough, I guess, because we had to take $25 million out of the law firm. Erica was neither an owner nor employee of the law firm. None of the payments were legitimate law firm expenses. The $25 million in credit card charges and invoices she sent to the firm for payment was for use for her glam squad, talent professionals, and image consultants, and allowed her to project an image of obscene wealth by spending massive amounts of money on clothes, purses, shoes, jewelry, and travel. If you are out there, Erica, or anyone like Erica, and you need to flaunt your wealth and just show people how rich you are, might I offer you the ability to sponsor Uncivil Law? Yes, you can sponsor the Uncivil Law for $1 million. You can sponsor the Uncivil Law and I will tell people about how rich you are, and I'll tell them how you're better than them, and how they are peons compared to you, and how they should feel grateful for even knowing your name. These are one of the many services I can offer here at Uncivil Law for the low cost of $1 million. I don't know if I should tell this story or not, but what the hell. This whole thing reminds me of a joke I once told in law school that my teacher really didn't like, and it was one of my better moments in law school. Though it's one of those moments you remember. So I forget exactly what we were discussing. We were discussing some illegal thing, whatever, and it was a different case with a different attorney who had defrauded their client out of like $5 million or something. And so the teacher said, well, would any of you do this, because it could put your license in jeopardy? And so I raised my hand, and the teacher said, you do this? You do this $5 million worth of corruption? And so I said, if I thought I could get away with it for $5 million, I'll just send in a copy of my law license with a bow on top. That answer was apparently the wrong answer, but reminds me of that moment of humor. Finally, Tom knew he needed to protect himself in the Girardi family enterprise scheme from regulators, especially the state bar, the agency charged with regulation and disciplining attorneys in California. To insulate the enterprise, Tom took the state bar officials and employees to expensive restaurants and paid for their meals, flew them around on his private jet, and hosted them at extravagant parties. The Murdaugh murders in South Carolina are pretty lit too, yeah. As a result, despite numerous complaints that were filed against Tom over the years, and dozens of lawsuits that were filed against him and the law firm in the courts, the state bar neglected to conduct a single investigation, allowing Tom to maintain a spotless record before the state bar, enabling him to continue to steal from clients. When the state bar firmly on his side and under his control, Tom had the freedom to operate the family enterprise with impunity. Throwing all sense of ethics out the window, Tom and other attorneys from his firm acted as though the professional rules of responsibility didn't exist, which, for them, kind of a little bit. Lawyer in Korea gives me 5,000 won, I'm guessing. As my bar exam studies ethics instructor said 26 years ago, there are two basic ethics rules, are don't, and rat out your fellow lawyers if they do. That's, not bad. All right, so far as RICO goes, it's a little bit thin. Okay, it's a lot thin for RICO. It's very sort of fluffy. So hopefully it'll get a little bit better in terms of, who, what, when, where, why. Even with Tom's influence, pedigree, and prestige and conspicuous wealth on display, Girardi Family Enterprise began to founder in 2019. Because the enterprise was always behind on payments to clients and creditors, Tom and the law firm routinely sought litigation funding to bridge the gap. For years, this money flowed freely based on Tom's reputation. But eventually, the law firm and Tom were routinely delinquent on debt to lenders, and the money dried up as lawsuits for payments began to increase. The Law Finance Group, a lender, filed a lawsuit against Tom and the law firm that focused heavily on claims that Tom was misappropriating a loan to fund his lavish lifestyle and keep his prominent law firm financially afloat. As cracks began to appear in the enterprise, Erica did her part to obfuscate. Erica was asked to comment on the lawsuit dozens of times by various media outlets. Initially, Erica tried to brush it off, saying, "We're in the lawsuit business, baby. We sue when we get sued." Which, as far as the response goes, isn't so bad, I guess. On March 27, 2019, Erica appeared on an episode of Watch What Happens Live. During that episode, a fan asked Erica if she feels the need to cut back on her glam squad since her husband is being sued for a huge amount of money. The host of the show, Andy Cohen, acknowledged that they got a lot of questions about this and asked Erica if there's anything she'd like to say. Erica responded, yeah, it's a lawsuit and you can't comment on that, but then added, I pay my own bills, so no, I don't. At this time, Erica knew she didn't pay her own bills, and her lifestyle was being funded entirely by Tom's law firm. She used her celebrity status. Okay, so then there was this Lion Air tragedy. 189 people dead. But that's 189 people we can grift who won't need the money, I guess. So there's that. Ethics is 3 rules. Don't sleep with the client. Don't take the client's money. And don't have a conflict of interest. Do those and you're probably okay. This is good advice. Yeah. Don't take the client's money. Don't sleep with the client. Unless you're in Virginia, which it might be okay. At least last time I checked, they never adopt that ethics rule. And don't have a conflict of interest. Yeah, don't fuck with the client's money is definitely number 1 though. You got to sleep with the client before they become a client. That's the key. You got to sleep with the client first before they become a client. So then it's okay under the ethics rules. So it's like before you retain me, you know. So the enterprise springs into action. They go to Nardo and his company for litigation funding. 2019, they had actual knowledge the enterprise was stealing money. Many hot singles in the patent office? Not that I'm aware of, no. Nonetheless, Dinaro agreed to provide the family enterprise with additional loans in hopes of keeping the scheme going long enough to recoup the money. 4 months later, Erica personally signed an agreement with Dinaro's company. At the Red, you should cover the lawyer's murder ethics thing quickly. Ah, yes. I know what you mean. Yes. So, there is an attorney who might be worse, or at least worse off. There might be an attorney who's worse off because there's an attorney who might have taken serving the client to extremes, and including assisting the client with the murders. And now they're seeking the death penalty against the attorney. Lion Air settlement and negotiation. Girardi family enterprise arranged for 50% of the fees paid directly to the California Attorney Lending Association. If you can find that article about the attorney with the death penalty thing, would you? It's on Instagram. I'll dig it up already. But yeah, never mind. Do it at the end of the stream. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it at the end of the stream. All right. Between March 4th of 2020 and May 2020, 22nd, JK issued the following checks. Okay, so this is like some specific shit now, right? So now we have like exactly who, exactly when, exactly what. So this is more like what you need in RICO. You need this kind of table in a RICO case. So this is promising. They signed the checks knowing they weren't entitled. Okay, and then we got some more specific checks and some more specific checks. Dates and times. They personally signed the check, deposited the check. Laundering of illicit proceeds. Date, check, time, and amounts. Fraud. Specific check number, specific date, specific emails, so this is the kind of thing you're looking for in a RICO. This is the kind of thing you're looking for in a RICO. So how this particular judge or how this judge, when it's filed, will evaluate this, I couldn't say. But this is the kind of detail you're looking for, right? Specific dates, specific times, specific checks, specific amounts. You want specificity. RICO isn't a gang-related crime. It's that. It's a racketeer influence corrupt organization. So yeah, gang-related crimes. Specific statements, specific check numbers, people who purportedly signed them, wire fraud, the specific email to document a wire fraud, specific steps in executing the letter, more wire fraud, transportation of stolen goods, specific emails or group chat in this case, lulling communications, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, yeah, scheme uncovered, read out the group chat. Okay, fair enough. This apparently is from a WhatsApp group chat. Bias line air. Still no news from GK. He did not answer my email. George Hatcher. Hi, Bias. Don't take it personal that he didn't reply. He's that way. Your email was no doubt printed and on his desk. I'm guessing. I haven't talked to Tom since I learned about the divorce. You did get email with the date on it and came from him. I received a copy. I promise to get right back to you if I hear something before. That goes for all of you. Bias line air. I will send another email today. George Hatcher. Do it. Copy Keith. Thanks, Bias. I read copy your mail to GK. George Hatcher. In my own life, I've always found that when I'm nice and especially patient, I get more accomplished. I wish I had an answer for all of you about the delays, but I don't. Once again, I say I don't know of any client represented by GK that came through me or my worldwide associates who didn't get their money. George Hatcher, if it was me, I'd ask GK to pay you interest for the delays. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying if it were me. Bias line air. I doubt that they will pay interest. They don't even explain where the money is. More things about the scheme being uncovered. Something about a car accident. This might be good. During the filming of Housewives Season 11 reunion episode, Erica made several statements to create uncertainty about whether Tom stole money from his clients, including, "I think there's a chance it is not true. Only one side of the story has been told, and we're a long way from finding out what really happened here." Erica made these statements on national television despite knowing that Tom had already admitted to stealing money in federal court, and the California State Bar had stripped him of his law license for misappropriating federal client funds. During the episode, Erica also answered a question about whether she would ever suspicious of Tom by saying, "Erica was making her own money. I was doing fine." She's talking about herself in the third person? This answer is remarkable. Okay, well, we're back. The stream dropped there for a second. In case you didn't notice, there's a little bit of stream droppage. The truth YouTube doesn't want you to hear. Incredibly, Erica also used her platform on Season 11 reunion episode to insult the victims of the scheme. When asked whether she felt remorse for the victims, Erica responded by saying, "Well, they're alleged at this point, so you still have to get to that. That's why that word is thrown around. This monstrosity of fuck shit is going to take a very long time. So all I ask for is patience. It will land when these people are properly compensated if they should be. You can't just jump on the conclusion. You can't just take one article and says this must be gospel. We have a long way to go." When asked why the administration of a bankruptcy estate may take a very long time to sort out, the issue of whether Tom stole personal property is not an open question. Immediately after the scheme was uncovered, Erica also began parroting a story about Tom's supposed mental decline that his attorneys were advancing. Erica was in the middle of filming Housewives Season 11 as news of the Ponzi scheme came to light. Though it would have been understandable for Erica to withdraw from the show, or at least chose not to talk about her legal problems on a nationwide television show, she instead made the cynical decision to leverage the scandal to further her career and stay relevant in the tabloids, meaning more exposure and a larger paycheck for her next season on performing on the Housewives. On the same day her involvement in the scheme was exposed in court filings, Erica tweeted a picture of herself to nearly 500,000 Twitter followers captioned, "High drama." When a federal judge found that Tom had misappropriated at least $2 million from Lion Air clients, she posted a scantily clad picture of herself on Instagram for her 2.5 million followers, captioned, "Got buffoons eating my P word while I watch cartoons." Gross. In response to all the negative comments she was receiving on social media, she posted another provocative photo on Instagram captioned, "I thought about disabling the comments, but you all are so gullible, I just can't." What is this? Oh dear. Rather than show any remorse or compassion for the victims, she used her platform to attack their credibility, question whether any money was actually stolen from them, even though it was admitted by fact by Tom and others, vehemently denies she had anything to do with the scheme and portrayed herself as the only true victim. She portrayed herself as the only true victim. But wait, there's more. Though Erica had published numerous posts making light of the Ponzi scheme, none are more insensitive than a cartoon of herself hanging on a cross she posted on Instagram, which mocks the Lion Air victims with earrings that display the words widows and orphans, and captions herself as the scapegoat. Let's look at this cartoon she posted. Okay. Wow. This is a picture she posted on her own Instagram of her wearing earrings that in fact do say widows and orphans. It's her on a flaming crucifix with the neon. Stephanie says her lawyers must love this. Yeah. Okay. The depiction of the widows and orphans earrings in the cartoon satirized the real life $750,000 diamond earrings that Erica often flaunted on Housewives. It was meant to mock the idea she ever received money stolen from Tom's client. Though it is intended as a cruel joke, the law firm's bankruptcy trustee recently discovered the funds used to purchase the diamond earrings were in fact funds from a trust account holding settlement money. So those are pretty blood diamond-y. So the earrings she has in the Instagram say widows and orphans. The real life earrings she actually got were from the widows and orphans. $750,000 in diamonds she stole to wear. Though her social media posts are insensitive and shameful, the reason Erica continues to draw attention to the scandal is far more nefarious. Erica understands that in the world of reality television, she can leverage the scandal to stay in the tabloid press, meaning more exposure and a larger paycheck for her next season performing on Housewives. She is also in talks for a role on another reality show, Celebrity Big Brother, and announced she started a hair extensions product line on the same social media channels she's using to mock the legal proceedings and insult the victims. So, racketeering. Yeah. On July the 19th of 2011, the law firm settled a case on behalf of 139 women who developed breast cancer after taking hormone replacement therapy. On June the 27th, 2012, a large tranche of the settlement funds for the HRT claimants was transferred to the law firm's client trust account at Torrey Pines Bank. Between June the 27th of 2012 and January the 23rd of 2013, the Girardi family enterprise misappropriated, that is, stole, more than $10.5 million of the HRT cancer money by transferring those funds from client trust accounts to themselves without authorization. More than $5.8 million of those transferred occurred before they even told the claimants the money had come in. Nearly 10 years later, Lion Air clients were victims of the same pattern as activity as the cancer people. The Girardi family stole their money, used it to pay themselves and former clients, and lulled them into not reporting the missing funds by sending them partial payments, along with letters containing lies. And conspiracy for racketeering, receipt of stolen property, aiding and abetting concealment of property, money had and received, conversion, which is a fancy term for theft, unlawful and unfair business practices, Consumer Legal Remedies Act, deceit, yeah. Oh, and here's some appendix of more money stolen with specific check numbers and stuff. So, yeah. So I can't tell you how this judge will interpret this settlement request. And I can't tell you how the court, if this is filed, will view it in terms of a RICO. I can tell you, as far as RICOs go, this is better than anything we've ever reviewed on the channel. By far. Because it's got way more detail than you normally see in a RICO. The RICOs are normally shit. And so this is not in shit territory, so they got that going for them. So I can't tell you how it will ultimately pass out. I mean, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you that at least passes the this is complete shit test. And there's that, so that's nice. Katie Joy is getting sued again, by the way, as I'm sure will surprise nobody. When that lawsuit hits the dockets and there's a counterclaim, which she's promising, we will start covering that. So that's something to look forward to in the future. I'm looking for this story from the attorney with the death penalty thing. I'm just trying to find that story now. Yeah, A. Hanger says, this is the first civil RICO I've seen that shouldn't be thrown out immediately. Yeah, that's about where we're at. I agree. I can't find it. I can't find the story dealing with the attorney who's in the death penalty issue, so I guess we can't cover that. Well, I guess that will bring us to the end of this coverage for tonight. Yeah, so this is the most promising RICO I've ever seen in a state RICO. Why the fuck have RICO if it's literally impossible to hit? I mean, it's not impossible. It's just really, really demanding. And the problem is that people use RICO as an like an emphasis button. The problem is that so many of the RICO lawsuits are just normal lawsuits, and then a person's like adds RICO like a and we really mean it kind of thing. So the courts have just become really cynical to them because the overwhelming majority of the time it's used like an emphasis button. We're not just normal mad, we're RICO mad. And so it's been massively abused. And so that's the reason the courts look at it skeptically as they do. Thank you, Stephanie, for sending me this article because I was having trouble finding it. All right. Let's talk about this other attorney who might give a raise for the money in terms of which is worse. Death penalty sought in triple murder case against former Oklahoma City attorney boyfriend. Oklahoma is now seeing the death penalty against a criminal defense attorney who fell in love with her client. It's a tangled tale of a love triangle turned deadly. Documents show that state prosecutors believe that Barry Titus, an Oklahoma City attorney turned lover, Keegan Haraz, should be punished by death for the murder of Titus's ex-girlfriend, Tiffany Ecor, and her parents, Jack and Evelyn Chandler. It's the Chandlers again. Before the volatile love triangle was ever formed, Ecor accused the 40-year-old Titus of threatening her family. She also had a pending domestic abuse case against him. Representing Titus was 38-year-old attorney Haraz. And then we have a picture of the couple. I feel like Keegan over here could do better than Barry. I mean, you know, I feel like she could do better. But that's apparently what she likes. She likes the bad boys to the point that she's now charged with triple murder. Early on in September morning of 2019, investigators say two masked suspects were seen on a security camera outside of a rural home in Beggs. Minutes later, the electricity was cut. Reporters say that while the family was fast asleep, Titus and Haraz kicked the door and shot them to death one by one. The new documents say Evelyn Chandler, Ecor's 69-year-old mother, suffered mental anguish before she was shot to death as the suspects began firing gunshots, striking and killing her husband, Jack Randall Chandler, as she attempted to hide from intruders seeking refuge in her closet. Here are the people that were killed. Here's the ex-girlfriend, which is also pretty cute, I have to say. I mean, I guess it gives hope to men everywhere. As for Ecor, the state said the 43-year-old suffered serious physical abuse, torture, and pain prior to and in the course of death because she heard intruders enter the home she shared with the parents and began firing gunshots, striking and killing her parents. I'm not so sure about the torture thing, but it's triple homicide, so, you know, yeah. The state alleged Ecor was killed so Titus could avoid prosecution for the domestic assault case. Well, I mean, I guess that's one way to do it. I want to avoid the domestic assault case, attorney. Hey, attorney, I have this domestic assault case, and I'd like to not be convicted. How can we avoid that? Have you considered killing everyone involved? Thanks for the great legal advice, I guess. I mean, you know. Okay. The state alleges that Ecor was killed so Titus could avoid prosecution for the domestic assault case. The documents add that Titus and Haraz killed the Chandlers so they could get away with killing the daughter. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. So yes, attorney ethics guideline number 187. Don't do the 187. Don't do the murder. Don't do the murder. Let's read another article about this Romeo and Juliet couple. You can't open it. Hold on, talk amongst yourselves. Oklahoma seeks death penalty for defense lawyer who fell in love with her client and helped him kill his ex-girlfriend and victim's parents. Prosecutors in Oklahoma are seeking the death penalty after a former criminal defense attorney who fell in love with her client and then allegedly helped him murder his ex-girlfriend and her parents. Keegan Kelly Haraz, 38, and her former client-turned lover, Barry Roland Titus II, 40, are accused of breaking into the victim's house in rural Beggs, Oklahoma in September 2019 and fatally shooting Titus's ex-girlfriend and her parents. The bodies of Tiffany Icor, 43, and her parents, Jack Chandler, 65, and Evelyn K. Chandler, 69, were found riddled with bullets. They've been shot multiple times by 2 different caliber weapons. Haraz and Titus are in federal custody and each charged with 3 counts of deliberate and intentional first-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree burglary, according to the documents. Now the state wants to execute the former attorney who helped her client and lover commit the triple murder. The documents state that Icor's 69-year-old mother was especially heinous because she suffered mental anguish before she was shot to death as the suspects began firing multiple gunshots, striking and killing her husband, Jack Randall Chandler, as she attempted to hide from the intruders seeking refuge in the closet. I'm not sure I necessarily buy that idea that hers was particularly heinous for that reason, but then again, there were 3 murders, so I'm not sure I need to find any one of them particularly heinous, at least for me. Yeah. Icor also suffered serious physical abuse, torture, and pain prior to and during in the course of her death because she heard intruders enter the home she shared with the parents and began firing gunshots, striking and killing the parents. Again, not sure I personally buy that makes that particular murder more heinous. Not sure I buy that particular theory of the case, but then again, 3 murders. So, it's all bad. The documents also allege the murders of Icor and her parents were attempts for Titus to avoid prosecution for the domestic abuse claims. You may in fact avoid the prosecution for the domestic abuse claims. So I guess mission successful. Icor had reported that Titus had assaulted her and had an active protective order against him. Haraz was representing him in the domestic assault and battery case. Haraz and Titus were considered suspects in the triple homicide early on due to Titus's connection to Icor and several discoveries that pointed to the couple. Well, I mean, it is usually the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the husband, the wife. So yes, he would be a principal suspect. Video surveillance at the house captured the moments leading up to the September 2019 murders, including a vehicle belonging to Haraz pulling up to the scene. The video revealed 2 individuals exiting the vehicle, including one individual who was obviously male and very tall, assuming gender, while the other was much shorter and smaller. The video stops after the perpetrators approached the house on foot, and it was later determined they pulled the electric meter prior to forcing entry into the residence. When investigators restored power to the house, the clock on the stove read 3:04 a.m., leaving murderers to believe the murders occurred in close proximity to that time. Investigators discovered a ball cap near the area where the vehicles was parked, and the DNA on the hat matched DNA samples taken from Titus when he was incarcerated. Uh-oh. Heroes and Titus allegedly planned their first act of revenge in January 2019 after one of the deceased had testified against one of her clients. One of Heroes' defendants in an unrelated drug trafficking case in Oklahoma City, Jose Irby, admitted to planting a suspicious package outside the home where Ecor and her parents were killed 8 months ahead of the murder. Irby told investigators that Harris had asked him to plant what he believed to be methamphetamine outside the home and advised his handler at the drug task force that the drugs were there. Haraz was arrested and charged on September 13, 2019 with witness intimidation after Irby came forward that he had followed her instructions in an attempt to obtain a lighter sentence. On the same day as Haraz's 2019 arrest, her brother turned over an AR-15 rifle he believed was used in the triple homicide to law enforcement. The rifle was traced back to its original owner, who had a shooting range on their property. The witness was interviewed and revealed the rifles that were sold to Barry Titus and a female, who they confirmed to be Haraz. Titus and Haraz had fired the rifle during the sale negotiation, leading investigators to find shell casings from that rifle on the shooting range. Those shell casings matched the shell casings found at the crime scene. Haraz was previously sentenced to 24 months in federal prison for possessing a firearm while subject to a protective order. Titus was previously sentenced to serve 36 months in prison for possessing a firearm while using an illegal substance. He admitted to illegally possessing the firearm in 2015 while he was a user of a controlled substance. So, don't commit the murders with the client. Don't commit the murders with the client. If you are going to commit the murders, don't leave behind your hat with the DNA at the scene. Probably should avoid, driving up in your car, I would think. Yeah. Stephanie says, what the F is going on with lawyers and ethics issues recently? We're a little bit beyond ethics issues. But then again, to be fair, I guess, so we are with Girardi. It's just that, it's probably too late to do anything criminally against at least him. But maybe some of the other people, who knows? This is a bizarre one, man. This is bizarre. So, I think they're looking at life in prison as the good result. Yeah, don't drive up to the scene maybe in your car if you can avoid it. Don't leave behind clothing with your DNA on it at the scene. Some basic tips here for the murders. Good times. All right, so I'm going to sign off for now. We have lots more stories to cover. So Stephanie found a lot of great stories for us to cover. First of all, I'm a little tired. Second of all, I don't want to clump them all together. I want to keep the lives a little bit more contained. So we may do another live tonight, depending on my energy levels and stuff. I need a break, but I need a break. Maybe I'll watch some YouTube, or something. Or maybe I'll do something, and we'll be on later. I think I'm going to need more than 5 minutes, Stephanie, on this one. But yeah, we might do another live tonight. I'll give you guys at least a half hour, though, of notice before we do. But I think we might do one on Cardi B tonight, because she wants the videos taken down that were part of the whole defamation thing. And so that might be fun to cover that. How would I amend the Constitution to reverse Wickard v. Filburn? I'm not sure I have to be honest. I think Wickard v. Filburn was just wrong on its own tips. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stephanie has a video? Stephanie, post the link to your video in the chat. That'd be great. Yeah, Stephanie, post the link. Post the link for your video so people can check out your video in the interim. Yeah, we need to make sure Stephanie gets some love. We'll give Stephanie a second to drop the link to her latest video in the chat. Yeah, I'm not sure you need to amend the Constitution to reverse Wickard v. Filburn. I think it was just wrongly decided. Other tips, we could give other tips for committing murders. It's from the 9011 it was 9/11 from a few days ago. That's fine. Drop the link anyway, Stephanie. For people who haven't checked it out, they might want to. We give other tips for murderers. It's good to get rid of all the clothing that you wear. You might want to get new clothing just for the event. Like you want to get new sneakers so it doesn't have an identifiable tread pattern. Like you want some cheapies probably from like Walmart or something. That like just anyone would buy. Pay for it in cash. So there's no particular record of you buying those particular clothing. Then, get rid of everything that you were wearing so there's no fiber matches. That would help a lot. Yeah, so check out Stephanie's video. Check out her channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Thrift store sneakers. That's actually not the worst idea ever because that way it would be someone else's tread pattern. So that'd be cool. So it wouldn't be like, if you already have worn sneakers, so they wouldn't match a tread pattern that you wear. They match someone else's tread pattern. Thrift store sneakers is actually a good idea. I like that idea. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Shave your hair, or at least wear a hairnet. That'd be good. Thrift store clothes, yeah. I like that. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. I need a little break. If you guys have enjoyed this, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for all the people that super chatted today, helping to keep the dream alive. It's always appreciated. Your super chats help me to judge what stories you find interesting and not. So thank you very much for your contributions. And until later, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers and goodbye.